Well, Mr. Speaker, it's clear that our international partners are quickly losing respect for this Prime Minister. And it's no wonder. After clowning around in India, inviting a convicted terrorist along, he was then forced to accept concession after concession from Donald Trump, all the while managing to anger our partners in Japan and Australia. And now Canadians are paying for his mistakes when it comes to our relationship with China. So once again, why did he show such weakness and wait so long to fire his own ambassador?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
On China, we will continue to stand up for the rule of law. We will respect our international obligations, and we will always put the safety of Canadians first. But, Mr. Speaker, we will take no lessons from that leader of the opposition whose only policy pronouncement on foreign policy has been to come down on one side of the most divisive, destructive debate to happen in the UK for an awfully long time. Divisive, destructive debate, 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 divisive, destructive. To happen in the UK for an awfully long time. People will understand if we take no lessons from the Harper Conservatives or from that Conservative on Canada's place in the world.
Well, that Prime Minister came down on the losing side of that debate in the United Kingdom. Mr. Speaker. But back to China, Mr. Speaker. For days, this Prime Minister allowed Canada's position to be weakened by having his own personal representative interfere with an independent process, politicizing the issue by giving a briefing in his old political constituency. Why did it take so long for the Prime Minister to fire his ambassador?
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Again, Mr. Speaker, the member opposite just did it again.
They exposed me for the fraud I am.
Of the most divisive foreign policy debate to hit the United Kingdom in a long time. He even boasted about it, saying that he was pro-Brexit before Brexit was cool. Quite frankly, Mr. Speaker, we will take no lessons from those members on the matter of Canada's standing in the world and the great work we're doing on foreign policy.
Order. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Well, Mr. Speaker, we'll take no lessons from someone who has boasted about admiring the basic dictatorship of China.
Of admiration I actually have for China, because their basic dictatorship is allowing them to actually turn their economy around on a dime and say we need to go green as fast as
Just in foreign affairs that the Prime Minister is making Canadians pay for his mistakes. We now know that if allowed to continue, the government will raise the carbon tax drastically after the next election. Based on the government's own figures, the carbon tax could rise as high as $3 per ton. So can the Prime Minister, $300 per ton, can the Prime Minister tell Canadians once and for all what the final...
Mr. Speaker, 276 days ago, the Leader of the Opposition promised that he would be delivering a plan to fight climate change, and we are still waiting. What we have laid out, Mr. Speaker, is a plan that will not only fight climate change, but make sure it's affordable for Canadians.
Order. I can't hear the Prime Minister. I can't hear people speaking. I need to hear them. I need to hear the person who has the floor, I should say. I can hear a lot of people speaking, but I should only hear one at a time, the one who has the floor on either side. And right now, it is the Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Again, Mr. Speaker, 276 days since the member opposite promised a plan to fight climate change, and everyone is still waiting, while we are delivering on a plan that will fight climate change and support families through this transition. That is what we are doing.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Well, Mr. Speaker, it was over 3 years ago that this Prime Minister promised a plan to tackle climate change, and all he's brought in is a carbon tax that is raising the cost of everything for commuters and for households, all the while giving a massive exemption to the country's largest industrial emitters. Now, maybe someone who inherited a family fortune and has never had to worry about money doesn't worry about paying higher costs on fuel and home heating. And now we know that those costs could be as high as $5,000 after the next election. Why is the Prime Minister trying to fool Canadians by giving them a check before the next election and then an ever bigger bill?
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
You can always tell the Conservatives are on shaky ground when they stoop to making snide personal remarks. The facts of the matter is
she talking about?
For the member's own riding and his own province of Saskatchewan, Canadians in Saskatchewan will be $1,300 better off with our plan.
Strategy. They'll give a check of a few $100s before the election, and then a bill of up to $5,000 after the election, when they no longer need voters but still need their money. Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister's been in office now for well over 3 years, and he still refuses to come clean on the true cost of the carbon tax. So once again, I'll invite him to do so right now. How much is the full and final price of the carbon tax?
Honourable Prime Minister.
Speaker, as I've crossed this country, I've heard from Canadians who have suffered from the wildfires, from the droughts, from the floods, from the heat waves that Canadians have been suffering because of the increase in extreme weather events. Canadians know we need a plan to fight climate change, and we need to make it affordable for regular people. And that's exactly what our plan does. We are putting a price on pollution because we need less pollution. The Conservatives, other than wanting to make pollution free again, haven't come forward with their plan, despite having promised it 276.
Honourable Member for Carleton.
Only a trust fund millionaire who inherited a massive family fortune would accept a $200 check as compensation for a future $5,000 a year bill. Everyday Canadians who have to pay their own bills and work hard for their own money know that that's a ripoff. These same Canadians are only a couple $100s short of failing to pay their bills already. Why won't the Prime Minister be truthful and tell them how much is the final price of his carbon tax?
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Canadians know the price of inaction would be monumental, but we do recognize that we need to build the economy of the future and put a price on pollution in a way